Okay, guys. So it's gonna be Huna Hao Part Two or Part One review of the book. Um, there are three chapters in this book. I read to chapter four. I finished chapter four, but that's part of part two, so this I'm not gonna review that part. Um, Hopefully it's not too long. I don't want to make this super long, but in part one, it talks about freedom time. Um, and freedom time is basically um, having the freedom of time. I know is actually really essential to also me. I took notes on this, so if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm looking at my notes, making sure I'm not saying anything incorrect. Um, it's essential because it allows you more time to focus on getting the goal done. I think if I talked about in the intro about how this book is for people who have really big goals that they can't accomplish by themselves. And by having more free time, you have more time to think about solutions, to find to solve the problem, or to solutions to get to your goal as fast as possible or as well as possible. um, and also just improve your life quality. By finding cues, it will allow you to free your time because you're not putting as much effort, because you're not as well, you know adverse, or your skills aren't, as like you're trying to do everything, but your skills aren't going to be as full as potential for everything. You can be like, oh, what was it? You can know everything, but you'll never be a master of one. I don't know the phrasing exactly, but something like that. Um, and so you need to find the who's in life who have those skill sets that you need to achieve your goals, so you don't waste effortly waste your time. Yeah, just so you don't waste your time. Um, Motivation. Um, and so this also talks about what motivates us to look for um like a relationship, as like building a connection uh, to a person, and then finding the who's. And it basically comes down to two things: desirability and probability. So desirability is the perception of the perceived total amount of self-exposition that is possible for the relationship. So it's basically how likely is it that you'll grow and get the most out of that relationship. Like, what can you get a lot from that um, connection that you make. Second is probability, is how likely are you able to make a connection with that person. Like, you can want to make a connection with um, Elon Musk because he would be able to help you a lot. But if you're like a nobody, the likelihood of you making a connection with Elon Musk is very small. So that is not the point, or that's why probability also plays into a factor of making connections. This also talks about how resources are super important. In the first chapter, it talks about this kid who asks his dad that he wants to get a job, um, and work at, like, some kind of store. But the dad told him to go to the market, buy a bunch of watermelons that are ugly looking, that like farmers wouldn't be able to sell. Buy them and then sell them for cheaper, and just call people and sell it for cheaper, and you'll make a lot more money than working at a wage store. So his dad was a who for in his life that provided him the resources and knowledge that would help him grow and figure out what he needed to do to get his goal, which is to make money, and do it a lot more smart and a lot more efficiently. And so that's why it's important to make sure you have enough resources, and you find who's in your life, such as mentors like his dad. Um, yeah, and just remind you to say that how limits your own knowledge and capability, and that's why you need to find who's. In chapter two, it talks about the truth of procrastination and how to kill it. So It's a very interesting concept because they say that procrastination is wisdom in some way, and that's a paradox. Um, because procrastination, like people don't actually when people procrastinate, they don't do work. But what this talks about is how if you can correctly use procrastination as a way to visualize, okay, I'm stuck at this point, I don't really know how to progress further, I don't really want to do it because I know that I'm going to be bad at it, I'm not going to be able to progress as much as I could, and that's why I'm procrastinating it, because I am stuck. It's a hard task, and it's something I don't want to do. But the point of this chapter is to tell you that when you recognize that you're in that procrastinating state, it's oftentimes the times when you need to find a person who can help you solve that problem, because you at that moment do not have the skill sets to solve that problem efficiently, and that's why you're procrastinating. And so that is why whenever you're in a procrastinating state, to remember to use it as wisdom instead of a setback. Use it as wisdom to recognize, okay, I'm at this chokehold, this point where a bottleneck, where I can't really go further, or I don't really want to go further. I'm having a hard time progressing forward, and I really need to find a who that can help me get that knowledge or skill set that will push me to accomplish this task that I've set for myself. Um, they also talk about being radically explicit with your goals, and also to um, let me read so I don't. Being able to artist. Oh, I also talk about how being able to articulate your goals is super important. If you're not able to articulate to the who person, they're not really going to understand what your goal is and not be able to help you as efficiently as they want to, if they wanted to. Um, yeah, and to remind yourself to ask yourself, um, who can accomplish this goal, and yeah, and who do I need to find? And then the last thing they say this chapter talks about is whenever you find the who's in your life, make sure you don't micromanage them, because if you got a person for a reason, you found them for a reason, and you should let them specialize their skills, and make sure you're not super micromanaging them, because I think that would cause them to not want to continue that relationship or connection you have. The last thing is chapter 3, which is find who's for all aspects of your life. So again, don't micromanage, and potential is limitless once you do find those people. They give a lot of examples of companies and stuff of like this guy who needed to move his production to India so he can lower the cost so that his competitors can stay competitive in the work environment, because their competitors were lowering their prices and stuff like that. And so to do this, he needed to find the who's in his life that were able to, efficiently and quickly find a good location, and all the workers are good workers and all that stuff. Um, and he needed to find a who in India that had was able to communicate well and also able to do that. Find locations that and like they already know the area, because if he did it all by himself, he wouldn't know the ins and outs of the town, because he didn't live there. Um, he never lived there, and so by finding the who's in his life, he was able to expand and multiply um, his earnings and his growth, by finding a who that was pivotal in making that growth. And so you know that's why it talks about how your limits are limitless as long as you're able to find the correct who's that can solve your problem and your goal is big enough. Um, and that's like I think one of the biggest points of this chapter. And then they also talk about every 90 days, so quarterly goals. You should have goals for every 4 months, so a quarter. Um, and yeah, always um, had one moving forward project, looking back over the past quarter. And so just make sure you look back at your past quarter, what things you did well, what mistakes you did, and then improve that in the next quarter. And then this book also gave me a challenge to find one who in my life that I can go to. And I already have. I found one of my friends, good friends from college. He's kind of like me. He's very motivated and stuff. So can use him as a network to connect with more people. And then he connected me with another college I'm not as close with, but I knew from college. Um, and she's like UX designer, so she could potentially help me with my project. So I think I just gonna have I still have to reach out, but I definitely will reach out once I have it more polished. I'm gonna update my design and stuff, and then yeah. So too much, and that's like enough about me. But it's pretty much part one of Who Not How, and then I'll try to read more today, and then hopefully get part two done tomorrow, or part two done next time. Maybe add part three if I'm able to finish part three as well. So thank you for watching.